Yeah, the wildflowers are starting to come out down here in Arkansas. A sure sign that wintertime's about over. We've got about 2 weeks left. We got some yellow ones that are just popping up everywhere. They're really great. We love to see the yellow flowers pop up this time of year because we're ready for a little bit of warmer weather. Look at there's a bee, bumblebee, or a honeybee working that flower. Cool. We've also got a whole bunch of these white ones getting ready to pop out. Pretty soon our yard will be just covered with wildflowers. Here's some purple ones down here. Yeah, it's cool stuff. We are still on these bias cells. I was kind of hoping this video would crank up the power supply, but we've got to stay on the bias cells a little while longer, and you'll see why here. Inside the bias cells, you notice there's a lot of corrosion. After I cleaned all that crap out, I could not get that corrosion out of there. I sandpapered it a little bit. It's really coarse, deep corrosion down in there, and real pitted and all. And alcohol took out the minor particles in there, but I could not get rid of the corrosion just by trying to sand it. It just wouldn't work. So what I did was I took the old moto tool with a very fine, very small stone on it, and I just kind of went up and down real easy all the way around the outside, or the inside rim, all the way around this rim you see right here, all the way around it. And we wound up with something that looks like this. Nice and shiny now. See, we got us a nice shiny rim around here. Now I had to do that because once the battery went in there, you had to have good metal to metal contact. If you didn't have good metal to metal contact, it just wouldn't work. Okay, so that solved, problem number one. Then, of course, I took a wire brush and shined up the outside and got them all looking good. So that solved problem number one. I still have this one, of course, left to do to clean up and get rid of all that crap, which I will. Problem number two was once the battery was placed inside the little bias cell holder cup, this end here has a little hollow spot in it where the connector right here, see if I can make sure you can see that little connector right there fits down in that hollow area right there, holds it in place. But the other side would be contacting the battery right here, and that is very slippery, and there's no way that this battery would stay tightly against that connector right there. It just wouldn't happen. Let me zero in here a little bit here. So what would happen is and I've already had it happen, the battery in the holder would just fall right out of there. Just fall right out. There's nothing to hold this side in. It's too slippery. So what do we do? Well, I came up with a solution. There's only one thing you can do. You've got to create some kind of a pit, just like here. On this side here, some kind of center hole of some kind that right there will fit into and keep that thing from falling through. And the idea I came up with is to first I'm going to have to rough up a spot right here with my moto tool, or my Dremel tool. I always use moto tool because that's I keep saying moto all the time. When I was a kid, the first one that came out that I remember was called a moto tool. Later on, it came out, they were called Dremel, and I just still can't get out of the habit of calling them moto tools. They're Dremel tools, okay? Anyway, I'm going to rough this a little area right up here, and a little area right up here, and I mean small area. Then I'm going to whip up a little bit of the 5-minute epoxy gel, and I'm going to put a little dab of it right there in the roughed up area. And I'm not going to, I'm not going to grind through the metal. I'm just going to barely rough it up, Then I'm going to put another dab of that epoxy gel right there. Then we're going to take this little washer. I went over to the hardware store and I found me a washer just the right size. Look at that. I mean, come on. This stuff is so easy. I'm just going to cement that in there just like that. Voila. There's our sunken down hole area that'll keep this from slipping out. God, this is just too much, too easy. Anybody could have come up with that idea. So let's see if we can pull it off now. The battery has been roughed up, as you can see. And I also decided, what the heck, I might as well go ahead and rough up the, let me get this back here. I'll just put it down here pretty blurry, I know. Back up a little bit, that might help. I also rubbed up one side of the washer where the gel is going to go. So let me put a little dab of gel on there, and then get this baby up on there and see what happens. You know, even if the gel doesn't not allow the washer to go all the way down, it won't hurt a bit. That just means the hole in the center will be deeper, and this will be able to go down in even further, which would keep it from falling out. Man, this is a win-win situation, trust me. Alright, I'll let you see me do this. Let you become part of this. So if I screw up, it's all our fault. Alright, just a little dab will do you right there. And a little dab will do you right there. It's amazing I had to mix up that much glue just to get those 2 little dabs. Hey, such is life in the radio fast lane. Alright, now let's go ahead and take our little... Let me see, there it is. We'll go ahead and take this little washer right here like so. And let's turn this around so it's horizontal. And let's make sure this is horizontal, which it is. And now we'll just go ahead and set that baby on there. Success or failure, here we come. Oh, look at that. Look at that. I did this one-handed, folks. Get that pencil out of there before it muffs everything up. Perfect size washer. I got kind of lucky on that. Let me go ahead and press it down with a pencil a little bit. Alright. Now we got a little bit of glue in the center there, and I want to try to get out. I want to make sure we have good metal contact in the center there. I may have to wind up picking some of that out, cleaning it up, making sure that... We want to make sure that this little nub goes all the way down and makes metal-to-metal contact. So when that thing hardens up, when the glue hardens up just a little bit more, I'll be able to handle it without having to worry about the washer slipping around, and I can go ahead and clean out a lot of that glue in the center. Well, there it is, all back in. All the glue has been removed from the center, and any glue that might have squeezed out around the outside edge has also been removed. So let's go ahead and see if that baby will fit in there nice and snug now. Well, once again, we have run into a snafu. The problem I'm having now is, you know, it all fits together right inside between these two things, but the problem is this thing here is moving around inside. See how it tips around? That is not good. You know, David McClellan, the one I mentioned earlier, who in the last video who had come up with this idea, the holder that he was putting his bias cells in was a little bit different. It was more of a spring type deal like this, top and bottom, and it held the bias cell in like that. So it was just simply a matter of slipping it in between the two wider fingers. What I've got is just a couple of, you know, little pointy little things, causing me a little more difficulty with these than he had with his. So as we go, we're going to have to figure it out. So what I'm going to have to do now, I mean, I don't really have any other choice. I've got to keep that thing from slipping and sliding around inside that bias cell body, because the body is much larger than the cell itself. I say much larger, but it's large enough to allow it to roll around in there, which is no good. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to have to whip up another batch of that gel, that epoxy gel, and put a dab of it right here and a dab of it right there to keep that thing from rolling. We'll get it. We'll get it. Well, there it is. I've got the epoxy around it a little bit on the edges, being careful not to get it, you know, between the two positive and negative metal surfaces on the battery, and it is solid, not moving around. So let's see if we can get that baby back up in there where it belongs. Well, there she is, nice and snug, and I can even spin it around. It's not coming out. That's good. I like that. She spins around real good. Alright, well, I think what we'll do now, I'll have to, of course, check continuity between this wire here and this case, and between this wire here and that washer right there, to make sure we have some continuity on both sides. This wire right here is isolated from these two wires by these two white insulators, so there's no contact between any part of the bias cell and this spring holder, this wire here that holds it in. right there. Alright, let me show you what our next problem is. You know, while I was fixing this one up with a washer and every other thing, I was also doing one other one, because we have two other bias cells that need to be worked on. And what we're going to have, of course, is this one will fit against the holder just like we did this one here. So that one will go like that. Then this other one had previously had a hollow area. Let me get this thing out here. Had a hollow area in here where this thing here would fit. Well, the hollow area is not there now. We've got that flat part of that battery. And as you can see, I'm running into the same problem. See, it's very slippery. There's just no way those two are going to stay together once they're in there. They will just sort of pop right out like that. So what do we do about that? I don't know. I'm going to really have to do some thinking on that. You know, before this thing is over, I may wind up having to just put those large button cell battery holders in there and just run the wires. But, you know, what the heck. What a great experiment we're doing here, huh? Well, that's it, folks. I've got these last two in. They seem to be pretty secure. But I don't trust them that much. I'm afraid that right there is going to just slip and slide right out from under there. So what I'm going to do is put a little bit of that epoxy gel, 5-minute epoxy right there, which will hold it in place. But I'll tell you what, if we turn this radio on, nothing happens. The first places I'm going to look is this bias cell here and this bias cell here. And we may have to make a change later on by putting some button cell holders, you know, in the chassis, and then run some wires up and get rid of this whole mess. I don't know. We shall see. David, out in Tennessee, one of my subscribers, he said, you know, what's with these bias cells? What's their purpose? Why are they there? Well, I'm no genius on it, but I'll tell you what. My mentor, Brendan, up in Detroit, my television mentor, he told me basically they're there to create a potential difference between one wire and another. You know, which with the negative ends facing the control grid on the tube, when you have a potential difference, the tube control grid feels a negative voltage there and up here on the tube that this one's connected to. So these, you know, I stated in the beginning, these recharge batteries. They recharge. Well, they are depending on how you look at it. Originally, they had some kind of a powder type stuff in there. You add the water, and they continually charge themselves. They just keep themselves charged until they finally crap out. The design was they were supposed to last for the life of the radio. You know, 10 years, 20 years, they probably did. These batteries do not discharge. And there's no current that leaves these batteries. It just provides a potential difference between point A and B, which is felt on the control grid of the tubes. And it'll be a negative voltage, which I understand it gives the tube a sharper cutoff, something like that. But anyway, you know, since I'm not an electronic genius and I'm not an electronics engineer, that's all I can tell you about it. It provides that potential difference. And I don't know if these two are going to do that or not. I'm thinking about ordering one of those, you know, button cell holders and button cells just for the heck of it. Yeah, I can get away with one, since these are about 1 1/4 to 1 1/2 volts apiece. Actually, from 1 to 1 1/4 volts, actually, I think is what they were originally. And I can go ahead, this would be a total of about 3 volts, so I could just mount a 3-volt one here, a single battery, and I can get rid of the two. Well, that's it. We're calling this bias cell thing wrapped up, except for me to put a little bit of gel, 5-minute epoxy gel there to keep it in place. Next time, we start on the power supply. Let's hope we have a whole lot better luck with that than we did with this. This looks okay, except, boy, I'll tell you, these things are stretched to the max. With those hollow spots no longer in those bias cells, these things are really stretched out, so I don't know if they're going to work or not. Anyway, till next time, as usual, this is John.